Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. I'm your host, Peter Van Rijsdam, and I am joined by Don Pizzette. Don,
Hello.
how you doing?
I am doing great. We got a great week full of tech news for you today from all across the board. Nothing too groundbreaking going on right now. There's a little bit of a lull, I think, because of the economy. We'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, there was still some stupid stuff where people made mistakes or are just crazy.
Yeah.
Which that'll be fun to get to a little bit later on. And speaking of stupid stuff and crazy, Daniel, how you doing today?
You know me oh so well.
Good to have
a
you.
more apt description I don't think I've ever heard.
Yeah. All right. Well, speaking of, right off the bat, this one is about crazy people. So this is from tomshardware.com, and the article is Intel's Sapphire Rapids has 500 bugs. Launch window moves further. Well, that's good that they're delaying the launch, but and I love their punny little sub-headline here on Tom's Hardware. Someone call pest control. 500 bugs. I don't know. Just smash
Yeah. Intel is having a bad week, and this is not the only negative headline out for Intel right now. They got a couple of different things going on. If you haven't heard of it, which I don't blame you, the Sapphire Rapids processor, Intel has the worst code names for that. Yeah, because how do you is that newer than Sand Lake
was
or
Adolf Hitler not available?
Yeah. well, even if you went with that, what would it be like? Tyrants through the ages?
It's just a Genghis Khan.
So-
Got the Attila the Hun.
Yeah, I was really looking for baby Papa Doc.
So Sapphire Rapids is their next generation server processor, right? So this is if you're building a data center with Intel processors, Sapphire Rapids is the one that's on the horizon. They were hoping to release it here in 2022. Not going to happen. They announced it's being delayed to 2023 due to a couple of bugs, right? So there was a
Coronavirus.
Normally there'll be like 2 or 3. They call them steppings when they have to go in and change something in the processor and redo it. A stepping is a big deal, right? Because they'll manufacture dies to create the processors. They then run them through testing, and if there's a problem, they can't just say, "Well, let's do a software patch." They have to like rebuild the dies. And so, what Tom's Hardware was saying was that it costs about $10 million every time they have to change the steppings. Well, they found 500 different bugs and have now gone through 12 steppings so far. This might set a record for Intel processors. So really bad for them. They're having to push back to next year. That's not a good sign.
At what point do they just throw their hands in the air and say, Ruby Pond?
Yeah, we're skipping past the old Sapphire Rapids.
Well, so they can't do that.
Really?
And if you remember why, or if you remember just a little bit about Intel was really laying an egg just a year ago.
Yeah.
AMD was eating their lunch in pretty much every market, and it was looking really bad. They brought back their old CEO to try and get some of their swagger back. They gave up on their 5 nanometer
That's right.
foundry, right?
They just couldn't make it happen.
They couldn't, and so they gave up. They said, well, we'll use TSMC or somebody like that, right? So you can't give up too many times before you just shut down the business, right? Speaking of which, they are shutting some things down. They sold off their Optane storage division a while back, but they've been holding on to Optane RAM. They have now taken the steps to close down Optane RAM. So all of their Optane product line has been shut down.
That was just a big laid an egg.
It was really great technology.
Yeah.
Super fast, super reliable, super expensive, like everything Intel likes. It just didn't catch on.
That will be a problem. I mean, you can have the coolest thing on earth if it doesn't, make people want to buy it.
Yeah.
Well, then there's that.
We see that over the years. Do you guys remember Rambus RAM?
Yeah. I remember it. I don't remember anything about it.
Most people are like you. They remember that it existed, but they never had it. And it was because, like, with modern SDRAM and DDR or whatever, the standard itself is free. Like, anybody can manufacture SDRAM. Anybody can manufacture DDR4, and you don't have to pay, like, licensing fees. But with Rambus RAM, they came up with a new design that was faster and better. But they said, no, you gotta pay us to use it. So if you want to make a motherboard that accepts Rambus RAM, you got to pay a licensing fee for it. And so it was offered in some workstations, but didn't really catch on. And even though it was better than what we had, it died. Yeah. And that's kind of how Optane is.
Yeah, and my guess is, they probably build in their budget for 3 or 4 of these steppings. So if we're at 12, we're already saying, all right, we got to sell more of these than we thought we did to turn a profit. But I'm looking at it from the side of a customer going, if I saw a story about a car and they were like, yeah, that new Chevy, yeah, it used to blow up in testing a lot, but they said they fix it all now. So you want to buy the new Chevy?
Remember those people it killed?
I'm not doing that.
Let me put a different spin on it. So, Peter, would you rather buy this Chevy where we fixed 500 problems, or this other Chevy where we didn't fix 500 problems?
I don't
Boy,
know.
that's a real no-win situation.
Yeah, if it's simpler, because it's never had 500 problems. I don't know. It just sounds like
Either
remember that
500
cursed
problems is the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Remember that
Come to
cursed
the bottom
Broadway
of the
show, like that Spider-Man show, where like people were falling from the rafters, and like you just go, let's just walk away.
Yeah.
We'll start a new show.
They finally did that, right? Didn't they? They abandoned it.
This is done. That's what needs to happen.
People died, didn't they?
Yes. Multiple Spider-Men.
Yeah.
I believe.
Dude, so would you like to be Spider-Man on Broadway? I do not have a suicidal thought in
This
my
spot
head.
just opened up.
Yeah, I bet it did. After you cleaned that
what about the
spot
understudy?
off the
Yeah.
ground.
Like, I'm going to take a pass on that. I'm waiting for the sequel to Mac and Me.
Yeah. Really
With
looking
the
forward
wheelchair
to
down.
that.
Yeah. Yes. Who was it? Paul Rudd. That every time we go on Conan would show that. That's fantastic. All right. Yeah. So a bad time to be Intel.
Get it together, guys.
A good time to have Apple Silicon or AMD in your machine right now.
Yeah, for the regular rank and file consumer, this one probably doesn't matter. For data centers, something like this will actually have really ramifications like 2 or 3 years from now.
Okay.
So it's hard for Intel to recover from it. It's just a shame to see it because they were getting better.
Yeah.
And this is a bit of a setback, and we'll see how they end up on it. Maybe they'll end up with a processor that's more secure than we ever could have hoped, and it becomes the next standard.
That's what's going to happen.
I mean, they say you can't make an omelet without breaking at least 500 eggs.
Yeah.
I believe.
Well,
Right.
there
That's
you
it.
go.
That's it.
Make a 4-egg omelet.
$10 million omelet.
Yeah. All right. This next one is from blog.linuxmint.com. Linux Mint Vanessa. Speaking of horrible code names, Vanessa Cinnamon released. And so, Don, you just hate this Linux Mint version right off the bat, right?
I wonder, which Vanessa it was named after. Vanessa Cosby?
Vanessa Williams.
I was going to say
Vanessa Williams, yeah,
That's the
yeah.
one that came to mind right off the bat.
Beautiful woman.
Well,
Talented woman, too.
so Linux Mint, I know, Daniel, you're a fan of Linux Mint, although, do you still run it?
I still run Linux Mint, yes. I haven't upgraded to the latest. I don't do the major distribution upgrades. I'll just do, whatever upgrades are for my system to keep it secure and, working that way. When I get a new PC, I'll probably move to this version of Linux Mint because, I do like it. I think it's a very friendly Linux desktop experience. And Ubuntu's great. Yeah, you've been using Ubuntu as well.
Sure.
Right. There's nothing wrong with that. I think it all kind of comes down to, probably the bells and whistles and what you're looking for right out of the box without having to do a whole lot of tweaking. And I found that Mint works for me.
Well, what Linux Mint is known most for is its desktop, right?
Murder for hire.
Well, there's that. You got to pay the bills. But but they really want to have that user-friendly desktop, and they create a great experience by using the Cinnamon desktop. They are built based on Ubuntu. And so there's people like me out there that, I'm not a big fan of Linux Mint. Not because I don't think it's a good OS, but because I don't think it offers enough to make me not just want to run Ubuntu instead,
Makes sense.
and why add an extra step in my update process or whatever. Well, when they made the decision that they were going to split off and create their own OS so that they could maintain the Cinnamon desktop the way that they wanted to, they made a few decisions. And one of those was that they developed their own what's called a mutter that runs in the background to help with all the window rendering and management. And so that was a big part of Cinnamon. They did that because they wanted Cinnamon to remain portable so that it could easily move to different distros that were out there and it could be run wherever they wanted. Well, Linux Mint 21 is their next long-term support release. So an LTS release, if you run it in an enterprise or business or you just don't like doing major updates every year, then this is the winner for you. This one will be supported all the way through 2027.
Ooh.
So it's a big deal. It's a big release. And they made a decision in it that I don't know that I'm necessarily comfortable with. There's a lot of things where they talk about the new features. There's got this bell or this whistle. But the main thing is that they've moved to rebase their mutter. And of course, as I'm I'm just giving this article as fast as I can. I can't find the reference anymore.
Control F or Command F, you stupid Mac user.
Well, yeah, I have to look. There's actually a whole separate article on the actual technical stuff of what was new, but they've rebased their mutter back closer to what GNOME has, which means some of the functionality on the back end is shifting closer to what GNOME did. One of the neat things about Cinnamon was that if you had like a GTK app versus apps with other frameworks, they would render the different ways. Well, now they're all kind of rendering the same way. So you lose a little bit of that flexibility. And simple things like the display settings tool, where you'd bring it up, you'd see your monitors and arrangement. That's now rebased back to kind of the GNOME way. And it seems like it's drifting a little bit back to the desktop that they moved away from, which I think is odd.
Do you got any theories on why this is occurring? Like,
because it's a pain in the butt to support, like you're maintaining your own.
Right.
That's a lot of work.
They just bit off a little more than they could chew.
I don't know, and maybe there'll be a lot of benefits to this. Maybe it means that security updates will come in faster, or when new updates and flashier things come to GNOME, they'll be able to adopt it more quickly. For the most part, and when I say for the most, I mean like 99% of the UI, it still looks like Cinnamon. You still have that experience, but there's going to be some subtle changes. So if you make an update and take the plunge to Linux Mint 21, don't be surprised if certain elements of your desktop look a little bit different. If you're rolling this out to like a school or a library, make sure you test it out first because you'll probably get some end user comments.
Yeah, well, I know the Linux community, and they never say anything about anything.
So very tight-lipped.
They'll just take it. Yeah.
And when they do, it's like talking to a Canadian. It's all like, hey, I'm sorry, it's a great system.
And things are perfect,
So I know that Linux Mint 21 was based on Ubuntu 22.04.
You knew
but
that.
I was under the impression that there were going to be 3 desktop versions, not just Cinnamon, but
there
also
usually is multiple
Mate
desktop
and
versions.
XFCE. Are those coming out at the same time as well?
You were doing so well.
Yeah, until you said Mate.
Is that wrong? Damn it. What is it?
Mate, yeah.
Well, that's how you say it. I mean,
Say Mate. Say Mate.
Because I found an article that was telling me, because I was like, why is it named Vanessa? And apparently they always do women's names. 19 was Tara and 20 was Uliana. But it mentions
Uliana could be a man's name.
Uliana. But it's not in this case because they always use women's names.
So now they've always done multiple desktops, but like XFCE is a separate project, which you can get Xubuntu, or you can even just install Ubuntu, Fedora, even Red Hat has XFCE for it. So you can get those other places. Mate is a neat one, and Daniel, do you remember the history? Is that the one that's based on GNOME 2? Like,
I don't remember, honestly. I don't think I used Mate a whole lot. I think Parrot Linux was running it, and I was like, I don't really like this interface very much, so I just kind of threw my hands in the air and walked away.
I just Googled it real quick while you were talking there.
You can do that, but you can't control a Command F to look for mutter.
It's based on the way my memory works and effort.
Ah,
So when GNOME went from GNOME 2 to GNOME 3, there were a lot of people that hated GNOME 3. And so what they did is they forked GNOME 2, and that became Mate. So like if you wanted to stick with GNOME 2, that was the desktop you wanted. And if you wanted a really lightweight desktop, you went with XFCE. But if you wanted the bells and whistles, if you wanted the bee's knees, that was Cinnamon.
Man, anytime I hear lightweight, I remember I started running the XFCE like, I don't know, mid-2000s, maybe early 2000s. And then somebody was like, well, don't forget about Fluxbox and Blackbox and
LXDE.
LXDE. Yeah. And then I kind of ran those bad boys for a while. And then, I kind of drifted away because I started doing sysadmining, and it didn't do a whole lot of Linux stuff at that point. It was all Windows. And then I came here and rolled right back around in my old Linux ways.
Yeah. Well, now we have a lot more RAM, and video cards are more powerful, and so you don't necessarily need lightweight. I think if I actually had to run lightweight, like on a Raspberry Pi, XFCE's grown a bit, and it's not as lightweight as it used to be. I think LXDE actually does a better job.
I would say so. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway, Linux Mint Cinnamon is out, and keep an eye out this fall for Linux Mint Pumpkin Spice, which comes out sometime in mid-October, I believe.
Are they going to go through each of the Spice Girls?
Yeah.
I don't know if Pumpkin Spice was a Spice Girl.
I believe it was. It was not.
She was one of the backups.
Yeah.
She was jaundiced. That's why I called her Pumpkin Spice, because she's a little orangish yellow in color.
No, it's a spray tan.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it was.
All right.
She just had a liver that was failing.
They were all British except for Pumpkin Spice, who was from New Jersey.
Yeah.
The trailer parks in Kentucky.
Let's move on to Phoronix.com for our next article. Linux 5.19 released. Linus Torvalds released it from an Apple Silicon MacBook.
Yeah.
Was he running?
He was standing
WSL
on top
or
of it
no? I
with
guess
his
that
other
would be-
laptop.
So this one was pretty interesting, right? Because I believe it was about it would have been about a year and a half ago when Apple announced the M1s and they released the first MacBook Air that had an M1 processor. And Linus Torvalds came out and said, look, don't expect to see Linux running on M1 Macs anytime soon because it's closed hardware. We don't have access to the BIOS and so on. Like there were any number of roadblocks that were going to stop it. So he said, don't count on it. Well, here you fast forward a year and a half, and you've got not only Linus Torvalds running on a Mac, he's got Linux natively installed on it, and he's pushing the latest version of the kernel out using it. So pretty rousing endorsement that it is possible to run Linux on the new Macs. And his is actually an M2 Mac, so the latest and greatest. Because I think, I don't know if they give him stuff or somebody makes sure he has all the hardware he wants. Yeah. But he basically said, like, Linux had been making a big push into the ARM world, and he wanted to make sure that he was eating his own dog food, that if ARM was the way of the future, he wanted to work in ARM. And so it was exciting for him to do that. Now, the distro of Linux that he's running is, where's the name? It's like Asari Linux or something. It's got a strange name.
No.
But it's
Linux distro with a strange name?
Yeah.
That's
It's one that
unheard
we
of.
mentioned before, but it's specifically crafted to be able to run on the new ARM-based Macs. I've messed around with it a little bit, and I found it a little bit flaky, but he knows more about Linux than I do.
Just a little bit.
Yeah. So, you know, if I don't have a kernel module, it's a problem. If he doesn't have a kernel module,
He
like,
just writes one.
yeah, it's a whole different world. Man, I gotta find the.
You see, Don,
the
this is why
distro.
I started telling people, you know what? I don't care where you're starting off in the old IT world. Just start learning some programming because it's a good idea. And then you could write your own kernel modules when things go awry. This is a handy skill to have.
And this is interesting because this is 5.19, and he said that 5.2 or 2.0 will he'll call the Linux 6.0 kernel. So this is when we're making the big
Ready to make the jump.
big move.
Yep. It was Asahi Linux, ASAHI. That's the distro that he's running.
Asahi.
So
It
yeah,
sounds like the berry from South America that they try to sell you the juice,
Oh yeah.
and it's good for your it's antioxidants.
Yeah,
and
did you see
cancer
on
curing.
multi-level
Yeah.
marketing all
Yeah.
over the back of Lexus SUVs?
oh, like the Tahitian nani
Yes,
juice,
exactly.
right? Yeah, I've
It's
seen those.
superfood.
Yep.
It's a superfood.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
superfood.
So, you know, Asahi Linux is not a name we've all heard of, but this is not the first time we've seen it in the Mac world, right? Because a long time ago, one of the early distros that really caught on for a Mac was Yellow Dog Linux.
Oh, old yellow dog.
Yellow Dog Linux that created
Which
the
you do
Yellow
not wanna
Dog.
drink.
Yeah. They created the Yellow Dog Update Manager, or YUM, that was used for many, many years in the Red Hat world. So, you know, it's not something you want to laugh. Well, we can laugh at it all we
Yeah.
want, but it's not something you want to ignore. That you know, likely pieces of this distro will end up in other distros.
Yeah, what was the first time I kind of bumped across Yellow Dog was I was going to school, and this guy had a MacBook and he had Yellow Dog installed, and I was like, that's crazy. What the hell? Where do you get all that money? We're students. You shouldn't have that. No, at least at that time anyway. Now it's kind of more commonplace than not.
Yeah, well, I remember like with my first computer when I got my first copy of Linux. So you know, Slackware Linux on floppy disks. This would have been like 1992. I was worried, like I'm about to format my computer and put another operating system on
Wow,
there.
you started early.
And
I screwed this up.
and,
Yeah.
and what if I can't recover? Actually, I think I was running OS2 on that system when I wiped it and installed Linux, and it wasn't like if something went wrong, you couldn't say, "Let me Google how to fix this."
Yeah,
right.
It was like, this is done.
yeah, yeah. And if your modem drivers didn't load, there was no way to get on the internet, and yeah, so it was a challenge.
I remember buying external modems for my Linux system because they were better supported,
Yeah,
right? And
Did you go
of course
just for
they
the
had better speeds.
14.4, or did you?
No, at that time, so like when I didn't start to really get into Linux until like the early 2000s. I kind of fiddled around with it in the late 90s, and then decided I was going to make that my main operating system in the early 2000s. And then I was like, what do you mean my modem isn't? What do you mean this doesn't support it? What do you mean
Yeah.
this
What do you mean I
piece
can't
of
print? Yeah. So what was your first Linux distro? Do you remember?
My first Linux distro was Red Hat. That was and then when I decided to like really take it on, I ran Red Hat for a little bit and then jumped to Mandrake, I guess it was at the time. It's probably the best at that point in time for desktop stuff. So that was really well. And then I jumped to Slackware, and I was a Slackware dude for a while.
Yep, that was the trendy one.
It was. It was.
All right. Well, let's move on. We mentioned, the stupid things happening at Intel, but they weren't the only ones doing something dumb this week. That's why our next segment is
All about
Go.
Peter.
Hey. All right, so this one comes to us from TechCrunch.com. Hackers stole passwords for accessing 140,000 payment terminals. And I didn't recognize the name of this one right away, but it said this is very popular in Southeast Asia and that part of the world. It's, what is it, Wise, Wizizi or Wise Assy?
I could not find confirmation on how to pronounce this, so I have no idea.
WISEASY. So it's either Wiz Easy or Wise Assy. Or probably neither of those.
What's that say?
Yeah, what's that say? But yeah, so someone. Well, it always goes back to people. So someone
goes
was
back
hacked
to
in the
people.
company, and they put these on the dark web.
Yeah. So basically, what happened is, let's talk about the equipment first. So WiseEasy is what I'll choose to call it. They manufacture these little wireless terminals that a waiter or waitress can hold. And so when you go to a restaurant and you eat, at the end of your meal, they can bring this little terminal over so that you can tap your credit card or insert for pin chip and all that.
Your card never leaves you then.
Yes.
Which I love those places. That do
Great
that.
security feature, right? And the terminal's right there. You see everything. You would assume that a payment processing company like this would be some of the top level security that's available. However,
Be wrong.
over the weekend, credentials were being published on the dark web for admin accounts to be able to log into the WiseEasy dashboard and then have full access to over 140,000 of these terminals for doing credit card processing. And once you had access to the terminal, you could push applications to them. You could change the flow of how checkouts were handled. You could basically change behavior however you wanted. You had full administrative access. And the big dough on this one is, here's a payment provider that is obviously handling sensitive data. They're handling credit card transactions, and none of their accounts, definitely not their admin accounts, but none of their other ones either, used any kind of multi-factor authentication. So it was straight username and password. And so the attackers were able to get a hold of admin credentials, username and password. They then dumped all the other usernames and passwords, started selling those on the dark web. Meanwhile, they've got access to 140,000 terminals.
And does that give you historical access to all the transactions that have been done on this terminal in the past? Or do we know that?
I would doubt. Well, hang on. I'm going to say I would doubt it because, like,
You wouldn't want to store that stuff local.
it would be a huge liability to store that, right? But obviously, these people are making great decisions.
Well, we're going to store this, Bob. Well, we'll just do it on the
Just
terminal
right
itself.
on the device.
Yeah.
We'll put a bunch of RAM in there. It'd be great.
How about this open S2 bucket?
Yeah.
Should we just?
S3.
That's damn it. I'm done.
I've gotten equipment before, like a cable modem, where
That's
it
two,
had
that's
the password was a random password, but it was printed as a label on the back of the device.
Oh, yeah.
And I've always wondered about that. Like,
Seems silly. Well, they're probably in their mind it's like, well, we'll give you this password, but you're obviously going to change it right when you get it. But no one does.
We were talking today about the state of IoT security. A lot of these things do have these labels printed on them. Here's the default password and username and so on and so forth. It is my experience that here recently, you get these things, you plug them in, you log in, and it immediately forces you to change your password.
That's smart.
So that is something that's happening. Like, as we see this as the trend, right? New technology comes out, people just want to rush out to market, make that money. I get it.
Yeah.
Security's kind of like on the back burner, right? And then things start going sideways, and then like, whoa, I guess we should probably start changing, and then updates occur, and then new models come out, and they have more security built into them. So that's just going to be the trend, and eventually IoT stuff will trend toward security, and then people will be bitching about how I can't log into them, and just,
Yeah. I've gotten to where I don't trust a lot of equipment, and
as you shouldn't.
I have AT&T fiber at home, and so the fiber, I'll call it a modem. It's really a transceiver or whatever, right? But I don't trust it. and I have access to it. I can log in and I get certain options. I can't change everything, and AT&T absolutely has access to it, right? So I have a firewall behind it, and I don't want to like it has built-in Wi-Fi. I'm not going to use that, right? So I turn that off. You can't trust that kind of equipment. But when you have IoT inside of your home, right, or like these restaurants where they got these payment terminals inside of their network, that was one of the things the attackers, they could actually pull the plain text wireless password for the wireless network that these terminals were on. So, if you were traveling throughout Asia, you could find free wireless all over using these payment terminals.
And not that, you've got the most sensitive data that the restaurant has at this point by having the access to those terminals, but you could use that to then get a foothold on the network for when they do upgrade to a new terminal, then you could probably...
Did they say how they got access to these things? Was it a security flaw or? They
didn't say that. So it could have been an insider account. It could have been a number of things. So they haven't revealed exactly what that initial entry point was. But I'll be curious to see it. And honestly, I always try and think of like, how would I exploit this, right? The most painless way to exploit this would be to simply modify the checkout process so that when it submitted the credit card information, that it sent a copy to your S2 bucket, right, Peter?
Now you're just being mean.
So just send a copy somewhere else. So you still let the transaction go through like normal. People can buy and pay for their food, and they walk out. And they have no idea, but now you've got a copy of all the credit card data.
Or could you somehow change the account that money's going to then?
You could,
probably.
Yeah, that might be great. Just sit back for a couple days worth of every restaurant of using 130,000 terminals.
You pull the Michael Bolton and just take cents on the dollar
that Michael.
through millions of transactions, and then you're swimming in money.
Forget the decimal.
But see, I always screw up something simple like a little decimal.
Federal.
That's not a mundane detail, Michael.
Just burned down the building.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we've got a little more crazy news to get to. We're going to find out who got pwned, and we're going to put on our tinfoil hats. So stick with us for that right after this on Technado with Don Pizzette.
So you've tried online IT training, but it's boring, out of date, and pricey. Well, ItsProTV is always engaging, always fresh, and plans start at just $29 a month. It's online IT training that doesn't suck. Start today at itpro.tv.
I've been in the career education business since 2000.
I wanted to get into computers, and I'd kind of been doing it as a hobby for a few years at that point.
But what we found when we were running the career school was about 1 out of every 100 people that we talked to might enroll.
You had books and you had official courses, but if you had a question, you had nobody you could go to. Nobody.
But what could we do for the other 99? There's 99 people out of 100 who can't afford it.
Once I was A+ certified, it was easy to find jobs. There were lots of jobs that had that as a requirement.
One day I came to Don and I said, I've got an idea. What if we could remove the obstacles for people?
We said, how do we create a product that is valuable to people?
Reduce cost and make it fun.
I want to make resources available to people that they can learn about IT.
Having an option that you can attend anytime.
Learn about certifications, get certified,
on demand,
and get into the job they want.
Where every day there is new content being produced.
When something new comes out, we record that content.
It's the best of the classroom experience delivered conveniently online. A library of IT knowledge that's waiting for you.
Hello, thank you for watching ItsProTV, helping you learn everywhere you go.
We started ItsProTV to create the training that we wanted, that we wish that we would have had. The style and approach that we felt would truly help people learn IT and succeed.
That's what I want to do. I want to make life easier for people who want an IT career.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette, and as promised, we're going to find out some more crazy stuff. We've saved some of the best for last here, I think.
Airplane bathroom crazy.
It's as crazy as an airplane bathroom. I got to say, I took the Boeing 787, the new Dreamliner, on my last trip. That's a nice airplane bathroom.
Is it now?
Yeah.
Had some room in it, didn't it?
It did. You could.
Were you able to
You could
man spread
pee everywhere.
Is that the one that descends a little faster than it's supposed to?
The bathroom?
The airplane?
Well, I know the 737 MAX descended way too quick.
Okay, that's the one that's unsafe. All right, so the 787.
Yeah,
I don't know that one.
That's the Dreamliner. It doesn't descend wrong.
I'll tell you the craziest thing about the Dreamliner, not to get completely off topic, but it was an overnight flight, and there are no shades on any of the windows, but it was dark as can be. And then I realized underneath, because I wasn't at the window, my daughter was, they had buttons, and you
Tinted the window?
You go down or up, because then I'm like, the sun has to be up by now. And she turned it up, and sure enough, it's bright as day out there, but you turn it down, and it looked like blue, and it was really cool. Yeah, but not any window shades on that.
How about that?
Very cool. Science.
Yeah, killing it.
It's crazy.
Science.
All right, well, let's go ahead and find out in our next section who got pwned.
Looks like you're about to get pwned.
Fatality.
Yeah!
All right, this one comes to us from Krebs on security.com. 911 proxy service implodes after disclosing breach. And I got to be honest, I read this thing,
And he was like,
not
so
only
there's
was I
no
confused,
911 now?
but I'm like, this is not the 911 I think it is.
It is not.
Okay,
Yep.
because it says 911.re, which I was like, what is the RE?
Oh, it's
even?
an incredibly confusing article. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, 'cause at first I'm like, oh, something happened to a 911 service. And I'm like, reading this, I'm like, are 911, are they hackers?
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Okay.
So in this case, it's a situation of the hackers getting hacked. So 911.re was the website. It is down now. But there was a proxy service called 911. And hackers could go on the dark web and purchase credits, because they had this whole recharge system. You'd purchase credits to basically rent proxies to use to anonymize who you were. So if you were in Russia and you wanted to attack the U.S., you could buy proxy access to look like you were in a different country, very much like a VPN service, except a lot of these proxies were people's home computers. And so 911, this organization based out of China, was hacking into just regular people's computers all over the world, and then basically renting access to them as a proxy. It was a very popular service, used and marketed on the dark web. A lot of some of the more nefarious companies actively made use of this service. Well, somebody finally had enough, and a unknown anonymous hacker, we don't know who, managed to break into the 911 infrastructure.
It was 912.
Yeah, they're like, we're going to show them.
Yeah.
Can't one up us. And so they basically broke in, and they did a lot of damage. So they started releasing every bit of personal information they could find on the people that ran the 911 service. But also, while they were in there, they did a lot more. They damaged the servers as far as the software that was running on them. They erased the backups that were there. They completely broke the payment system for being able to recharge and buy more access. So basically, they did a scorched earth policy on 911. And in the end, the hackers, the 911 operators, they
The original hackers.
the original hackers, yep, they just decided they had to throw in the towel, that it was, the damage was done, and so they shut the service down. So really interesting to see. We still don't know who did it or how they got in, but somebody had enough and targeted the hackers.
They got hacked to death.
You got to love it when the irony of a life happens like that. Just so nice.
I mean, part of the confusing part of this was reading this, saying, "Oh, okay, those are hackers," but then having it be referred to as a service. I'm like,
Yeah.
hackers
Everything's a
providing
service now.
Yeah,
Yes.
hacking is a service.
It legitimately
DDoS
is
a
that.
service.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Welcome to
pretty
the world we live in, Peter.
Well, good. This is great, unless then we see, they managed to exfiltrate all the data, and now they start up their own version
Well,
of this.
that's what I was about to say. Like, on a positive, it could be some kind of, I guess we'd have to say, a gray hat, right?
Yeah, vigilante.
That went and shut this down for the service of good. But what if it's like the number one proxy server
Right.
just took out the number two, and
Now they're number one.
That's
So-
probably more chance. That's
Yeah,
what this
it's
is.
true.
So-
because this would take effort. This would take a lot of know-how and effort.
I like how they discovered that this was happening on darknet forums and criminal groups. We're like, holy crap, we can't access the thing.
yeah, and
I feel like that's good.
the fun part to me is if we get hacked, we need to report it to the FBI and other
who do these
organizations.
guys call?
They can't call anybody because they're the bad guys.
It's like robbing drug dealers, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's dangerous
What are you gonna
work,
do?
but
Yeah.
you call the cops.
Yeah, sometimes you got to pay the bills.
That's right.
I do love those stories when people do call the cops. Like,
Yeah, I have heard of that.
that's
Yes.
good stuff.
Here's the thing. I was selling 2 keys of cocaine on this corner. Next thing I knew, guys drove up. They got ski mask on, so give me your stuff. I'm like, dang, man, I can't call the cops. And I thought, heck yeah, I can call the cops.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was actual audio.
Yeah.
At the moment. So I had to look this up. Anybody have a guess what country code .re is?
R-E.
I will say, never heard of this country.
That's fun.
Resident Evil?
Resident Evil. That's what it is. I'll give you a hint. It's in Africa.
Okay.
It's the 48th most populous country in Africa, and I looked up because your next question. There are 54.
Yeah. How many countries are there?
Is it Rwanda or?
No, it is Reunion, which is an island, a French island located in the Indian Ocean east of Madagascar.
Wow, that's
Madagascar, and we're even further.
that's out there. Yeah.
Wow.
I think now that I think about it, I think there was a big oil spill there like a year ago because
Really?
there was a tanker that was east of Madagascar off a little island. So it's probably
Well, I mean, be sure to visit us next week on technado.re.
yeah. We got to figure out how to work this into the
Yeah.
word. .re / something to complete the. Yeah.
Just make Technado/RE.
Of course, Don is referring to the fact that our domain name is technado.
/RE.
Republic. Technado. Right?
I feel like we should film an episode from the Dominican Republic one day.
Yes, on the Wi-Fi there. That is solid.
I wonder if they have YZZ, we can.
That's true. Yes, a Mauritian oil tanker ran aground on the southeast coast of Reunion Island due to very
Didn't
bad.
you used to be an oil tanker captain? Like,
Previous career.
Captain Phillips.
it was like
was
a couple
driving
years
this
ago.
He is the captain now.
Look at me. Look at me.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's take a moment for all of you to go ahead and grab your tinfoil hats because it is tinfoil hat time.
The moon landing was fake. Paul McCartney's been dead since 1966.
Dogs can't see color.
5G causes syphilis.
Do you understand that?
Yes. All right. This one comes to us from one of our favorite news sources, USA Today, which is only available now on hotel room floors. Outside your room in the morning.
That is true, isn't it?
That's the only place I
used to be
USA Today.
Like there and at Burger King, they always had them on the counter.
I think they're owned by Burger King. Yeah, that's probably it. All right, fact checked. Scientists at CERN are not opening a portal to hell. And I guess my big question is, why not? If we have the technology.
Aren't we making this happen?
Yeah.
So, the Large Hadron Particle Collider, is that the full name? Anyhow, the Hadron Collider is what I usually call it.
LHC is what they usually call it, LHC.
Large
Hadron Collider.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the LHC, there are a lot of conspiracy theorists out there that believe that once we start testing particles at that level, that we could potentially rend apart the universe and open up a portal to another dimension. And possibly hell, as the case may be.
You think one of them scientists are like, hold my beer?
I bet we can.
Yeah, I bet I can get that hell open.
Wait, is that the same guy that called 911? On
Yeah,
the
he's like, listen, I was waiting around these cop shops. My drugs got stolen. I figured, you know what? I'm going to fire up this LHC, see if I can't get my way up into hell.
Now, I will say, like, there's some conspiracy theories, like flat Earth, right?
Yeah.
Where it's just not. It's not possible, right? Like there's a 0% chance of that being right. But
we just lost 2 subscribers.
When you're testing something at the atomic level that's never been tested before, you're trying to discover something. I think there's a non-zero chance of you opening a portal to hell. Yeah. I think we can't completely rule it out.
Credit.
But I'm not worried about it. And the reason is I think people are overlooking the fact that there's already a portal to hell in every city in the United States called the DMV. And
it's already open.
I thought that Russia had drilled a hole into hell.
That was Stranger Things. You're thinking of Stranger Things.
Yeah.
No spoilers.
right.
No spoilers.
With Russia, do you remember there was the underground lake that they wanted to drill down into?
Oh, yeah.
That was deeper than anything ever, and they said we're going to find new
And
bacteria.
we hear like screams from hell.
Oh yeah, we all saw the thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what's down there.
Hell.
That's just
Like,
science.
yeah, I mean,
right.
their head's gonna pop off and run around like an upside down spider. We know what happens. It's not.
Dude, that was a great movie.
It really was.
This is
Yeah.
just, this
Really
is
enjoyed
just
that.
man's
Wilford Brimley being like a monster. That's just TV you don't get to see anymore. And
Yeah.
It's just
bring it
man's
back.
desire to smash things together is all this is.
It is. It is.
But it said the collider's been offline for a couple of years or 3-year hiatus, which because this kind of stuff came out when they first we're like, hey, we're firing this thing up. I think I didn't hear the portal of hell stuff. I heard more about we're going to rip apart the space
Black holes,
continuum
baby, little mini microscopic
Mini black holes, yeah.
which is
Kill us
disappointing.
all, and all they did was, find
like
bosons.
that's why we put it in
gluons
Switzerland.
and
So
muons and
we'll be fine.
quarks.
Well, the loop that it uses is incredibly large, right?
very
it's like
big,
over a mile, and apparently it takes weeks or even months to get it up to speed. So it's not just something they flip on at a moment's notice.
Well, I guess I'll see everybody here next week.
Yeah.
And we'll see what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With our new host, Beelzebub.
Really glad to be here, guys.
Ian, can you turn on that voice filter again that we used for the Freddy Krueger sketch?
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
no, that would be crazy. But the fact that they have to put out something about this is the best part, because you can ignore it. But I guess if the online chatter gets loud enough, you're like, I guess we put out a statement that we're not.
It seems like every new technology or something like that, somebody is claiming that it's some sort of like demonic, spiritual, this, that, and the other.
People fear the unknown. Well, this issue was important enough that it was picked up by both USA Today and Technado. So
Yeah.
We are the only two outlets.
Oh, they've got several fact-check sources on here.
We
point
cannot
out-
confirm nor deny. It's portals to hell.
There's not a danger of black holes, it says.
If you were shilling for, a massive cover-up conspiracy for the LHC, that's exactly what you'd say, Peter.
Yeah, that's
You get these media outlet types that's all up in your business talking about like, oh, I fact-checked it. It's not real.
And what they're doing, what they're spinning around there is two individual pieces of crack.
Yeah.
Glue together, and then
They get a crackhead to jump in and try to grab it at just the
suck on
right
the
time.
tube. Yeah.
well,
It comes out.
All right.
Fantastic.
I like how we've descended into our own level of hell,
Yeah.
talking about crack.
That's all this is. A big bong is what they've got there. if we make this weed go fast enough,
Oh,
it's just going to
man.
start smoking.
I'll tell you how to get high.
That'll do it.
LHC, get you some THC.
it does sound like a drug, doesn't it?
All right, I want to let you know about a couple things. First of all, Daniel and I are going to be at Black Hat next week, and we're going to do a couple of
gonna do
shows
some
from
LHC.
out there. We're gonna do some LHC, because it's legal there.
Yeah, it is.
LHC. And hell is legal in Sin City.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is that like the exact opposite point on the globe?
Yeah,
from,
that's it. That's how it works.
From that Russian.
We're gonna
lake,
do all
maybe?
like what's that movie about the China syndrome, where they burn a hole to the world.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
That's it.
Fantastic Voyage, I believe. No. I get these mixed up.
Yeah.
But so that'll be fun. So look
Soul
for
Plane,
that.
that's
And if
what it was.
it's Soul Plane, that's it. And if you're coming out there, definitely let us know, because we're going to be doing it on site, so you can meet up with us and say hi. But want to let you know about a couple of webinars coming up. First of all, there is one today, which is Thursday, August 4th, that Don is doing. It is How to Get Started in IT, Thursday, August 4th at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So don't worry if you missed that live. It will be recorded, and you can check it out. But Don's going to be taking a lot of questions. Are you doing like a presentation first, or is it you're jumping in with Q&A?
We're going to talk a little bit, but it'll mostly be Q&A. A lot of people have questions. It's just a great forum to be able to get in there and answer them for everybody.
Yeah, that does seem to be the webinar that we do where we don't have time for all the questions after
Right.
the fact. So that is a good one to do. Also, coming up on Thursday, August 18th, which is my parents' 50th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations to your parents.
Yeah, my sister goes, "Are we supposed to get them something?" It's like, I think we do. Yeah, I've never, you don't
Feel
give-
like that's
give your
worthy of a
parents. I mean,
gift.
I feel like they should get each other something.
It's their wedding anniversary. They were divorced 20 years ago.
Oh,
but
yeah. Should point that out. Yeah.
They've been together
Yeah.
since the
Happily
70s.
married
Yeah.
for 19 years. So that is all things cybersecurity. Another one of those that we've done in the past with a few other people, but Daniel will be with Ben Fink, who is with OnDefend, right?
Yeah, that's my boy Ben. He's
Yeah.
awesome.
Is he coming in?
He'll
is he gonna be- 'cause he's
probably.
over in
we're
Jacksonville.
good. Yeah, we like to use the big
Oh, yeah, put him on the big board.
BAM.
The big arse monitor.
That's right.
Well, check out all those webinars. I didn't even put up the link there, but at itpro.tv/webinars, where you can see those. And like I said, you can see all the archive versions of those as well if you want to check those out. And while you're on that internet, nope, that's the wrong thing. It's going to start making noise. There we go.
Because
Hey, I
that
found
don't
it.
make no sense.
It's right next to these big fat fingers. Not that
Your
good.
finger must be this big around because
No,
those squares are
those
like.
those iPads behind me, and so it's
Yeah,
like I have to
true.
literally dislocate my elbow to get to this thing. But yeah, head over to technado.do from the Dominican
Dominican
Republic or
Republic,
whatever
yeah.
country you're in. You should be able to access it and see all the great features or crap that we have over on that site. But also click that big orange button that says sponsored by ItsProTV, and that is where you can get 30% off of your ItsProTV personal membership. You can also request a team trial and get a demo set up and see all the great features available to teams from ItsProTV.
Man, I was in the Dominican Republic one time trying to sell some drugs, and then cops showed up because I got robbed and opened portals to hell.
And then you realize, I was buying the drugs from the cops.
Yeah.
And
And then they robbed me.
and they robbed you. Yeah, I've not been to the Dominican.
Yeah.
What's the other side?
To make a ride.
Hades, the other side?
Haiti?
Same island, right?
Oh, not Hades. Hades.
Not Hades. That's in Switzerland.
Gotcha.
That's underground.
Yeah, Haiti.
Yeah, it gets confusing.
Yeah, it does.
It's hot, but not,
It does
not
get
quite
warm.
that hot.
It does
Not
get
quite that
warm.
hot. All right, well, thank you all for joining us, and we'll see you next week from Black Hat. Don will be holding down the fort back here, but we'll probably be able to all get together and have some fun. So,
Excellent.
See you next week on Technado with Don Pizzette.